The metal chair made a scraping sound as Commander Zethka shifted his weight. His green scales caught the harsh light from above, showing the deep scars that ran across his face and neck. The interview room was cold and empty, except for 2 chairs and a small table. On the other side sat Dr. Lyra Voss, a woman with gray hair and tired eyes who had seen too many wars. "We need to know what happened out there," Dr. Voss said quietly. Her fingers moved over the recording device. "The Galactic Council wants the truth about the war with humans." Zethka looked at the walls around them. He had fought in many battles across the galaxy, but talking about the humans made his hands shake. "You want to know about the humans," he said. His voice was rough and deep. "You think you can understand what they are like, but you cannot. No one can." "Try me," Dr. Voss said. The alien commander was quiet for a long time. Then he began to speak. "It started 3 years ago on Kepler 442b. That was a mining colony. Small place. Maybe 10,000 humans living there. We thought it would be easy. My ships came out of jump space and we sent the usual message. Surrender or we attack. Most species give up when they see our battle cruisers." Zethka paused and rubbed his clawed hands together. "The humans sent back a message, just 2 words, come and take it." Dr. Voss wrote notes on her pad. "What happened next?" "We landed troops. 5,000 of my best soldiers. The colony had maybe 200 human Marines. The rest were miners, engineers, families. We had them surrounded. We had better weapons, better armor, more ships. It should have been over in 1 day." The alien's yellow eyes looked distant, like he was seeing something far away. "Sergeant Danny Price was in charge of the human defenders. Small man, not very tall, maybe 40 years old. When my troops reached the main settlement, he was standing in the middle of the street, alone. My soldiers pointed their weapons at him. Did he surrender?" Dr. Voss asked. Zethka made a sound that might have been laughter, but there was no joy in it. He looked at my soldiers and smiled. Then he pressed a button on a small device in his hand. The room fell silent except for the hum of the air system. The entire mining facility exploded. Not just one building, the whole complex. Kilometers of tunnels, processing plants, ore storage, everything. The humans had spent weeks rigging their own colony with explosives. They destroyed their homes, their work, their lives, just to kill 300 of my soldiers. Dr. Voss stopped, writing. "They killed themselves?" Price survived the blast. He was in a reinforced bunker. When my troops found him, he was sitting in the ruins, drinking something from a metal cup, still smiling. My soldiers asked him why he did it, why he destroyed everything. Zethka's claws tapped against the table. He said it was better to live 1 day as free humans than a lifetime as alien slaves. Then he asked my soldiers if they wanted some coffee. Coffee? Human drink. Price had saved some. He offered it to the soldiers who were going to execute him. Said it might be the last good coffee in the galaxy. The alien shook his head. Some of my soldiers actually took the coffee. They were so shocked by what happened that they forgot. They were supposed to be enemies. Dr. Voss leaned forward. "What did you do with Price?" "We took him prisoner." "Biggest mistake of the war." Zethka's scales seemed to darken. "Price spent the next 6 months in our prison ship. During that time he learned our language, our customs, our military procedures. He made friends with the guards. He was polite, helpful, even funny. The guards started to like him." "That doesn't sound so bad." Then one night the prison ship exploded. Price had been making small bombs from cleaning supplies and medical equipment. Things the guards gave him because they trusted him. He killed himself and 200 of my people. But before he died, he sent a message to every human colony in the sector. The alien commander stood up and walked to the small window. Outside, ships from dozens of different species moved through space around the station. The message was simple. It told humans how to make bombs from everyday items, how to turn their own cities into weapons, how to fight when they had no weapons, no training, no hope. The message spread to every human world. In weeks, we had reports of similar attacks across the sector. Humans were blowing up their own infrastructure rather than let us capture it. They turned their construction equipment into war machines. They used industrial chemicals as weapons. On one world, they released all the animals from research facilities and trained them to attack our soldiers. Zethka returned to his chair. His movements were slow and tired. But the worst part was not the explosions or the animals or the poison, gas. The worst part was that they were happy about it. Happy? Every human we captured was smiling. Even when they were dying, they were making jokes. They sang songs while they fought. They gave each other names for their bombs like they were pets. One group called their explosives freedom seeds. Another group had a contest to see who could cause the most damage. Dr. Voss put down her pen. Commander, are you saying the humans enjoyed the war? No. They hated the war. They hated us for starting it. They hated what it did to their families and their worlds, but they loved fighting back. They loved proving that they could not be beaten. The alien was quiet for a moment, then continued. On Kepler 442b, after the main colony was destroyed, there were still humans hiding in the outer settlements. Families, with children, old people, sick people. My orders were to bring them in peacefully, show them that surrender was better than death. Did they surrender? An old woman named Betty came to meet with me. She was maybe 70 years old, walked with a stick, had white hair. She brought cookies. Cookies? Small sweet food. She made them for my soldiers. Said she wanted to thank us for not shooting first. Very polite, very kind. While my soldiers ate her cookies, she talked about her grandchildren, her garden, her cat. Zethka's voice became quieter. The cookies were poisoned. Not enough to kill, but enough to make my soldiers sick for days. While they were throwing up and could not fight. The old woman and her neighbors disappeared into the mountains. They took all their food, tools, and weapons with them. Did you find them? We tried for months. They had turned the mountain caves into a fortress. Every tunnel was trapped. Every path had hidden guns. They had enough supplies to last years. And they kept sending messages to my ships. What kind of messages? Recipes for poison. Instructions for making traps. Stories about how my soldiers cried when they got sick from the cookies. The alien's laugh was bitter. Betty became famous across human space. They called her Grandma Death. She became a symbol of human resistance. Dr. Voss looked at her. Notes. How did it end? It did not end. When we finally left Kepler 442b, those humans were still in their mountains, still fighting, still making bombs and traps and poison cookies. They never surrendered. They never gave up. They just kept fighting until we realized it was impossible to beat them. The alien commander looked at Dr. Voss with tired eyes. That was just one small colony, one old woman and a dead sergeant, and they taught us something that changed the entire war. They taught us that humans do not know how to quit. The recording device beeped softly in the silence that followed. Dr. Voss reached over and stopped it. We'll continue tomorrow, she said. Zethka nodded and stood to leave. At the door, he turned back. Doctor, there is something else you should know about humans. What is that? They are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are not the smartest or the fastest or the most advanced, but they are the only species that makes war into an art form, and that makes them the most dangerous of all. The door closed behind him with a soft hiss, leaving Dr. Voss alone with her notes and her thoughts. Dr. Voss entered the interview room with fresh coffee and a stack of files. Commander Zethka was already waiting, staring out the small window at the stars. His green scales looked duller today, and his claws drummed nervously on the metal table. Ready to continue? Dr. Voss asked, setting down her cup and turning on the recorder. The alien nodded slowly. Yesterday I told you about Kepler 442b. That was just the beginning. After that colony, my superiors thought I had learned something useful about fighting. Humans. They gave me a bigger job. New Dallas. Dr. Voss flipped through her files. New Dallas was a major colony world. Population of 12 million. 12 million civilians, Zethka said. Men, women, children, old people. Farmers, teachers, doctors, shop owners. Not soldiers. The Galactic Council told us it would be easy. Take the planet, put the humans to work, use their resources for the war effort. What made you think it would be different from Kepler 442b? New Dallas had no military base, no space fleet, just civilian transport ships and mining equipment. My battle group had 50 warships and 200,000 soldiers. The humans had maybe 5,000 people with any military training at all. Zethka stood and walked to the window again. I sent the surrender message like always. Give up, or we attack. This time they did not even answer, so we began the invasion. How did it start? We landed troops at the main spaceport outside New Dallas City. No resistance, no fighting. The spaceport was empty. All the humans had left, but they left something behind. The alien's voice became quiet. They left children's toys. Hundreds of them. Dolls, toy trucks, games, stuffed animals. All over the landing pad. My soldiers had to walk through them to secure the area. Dr. Voss frowned. Why would that matter? Because every toy had a small bomb inside. When my soldiers stepped on them or picked them up, they exploded. Not big explosions, just enough to hurt, to scare, to make noise. But the message was clear. Even their children's toys were weapons. Zethka returned to his chair. That was when I met Captain Lisa Grant. She was waiting for us in the spaceport control tower. Alone. When my soldiers found her, she was drinking coffee and reading a book. She surrendered. She introduced herself and offered to give us a tour of the city. Said she wanted to help us understand human culture. She was very polite, very friendly. She even brought sandwiches for my soldiers. Dr. Voss raised an eyebrow. After what happened on Kepler 442b, you trusted her? We checked everything. The food, the building, her clothes, everything. No weapons, no bombs, no poison. She really did want to show us around the city. So I let her. The alien's claws tapped faster on the table. Grant took us through New Dallas City. Beautiful place. Parks, schools, shopping areas, residential neighborhoods. She told us about the people who lived there, their jobs, their families. She showed us hospitals and libraries and playgrounds. That sounds normal. It was normal. That was the problem. Everything looked normal, but something was wrong. The city was too quiet, too empty. Grant said most people had evacuated to the countryside, but there should have been someone. Old people who could not travel, sick people in hospitals, someone. Zethka leaned forward. After 3 days of searching, we found them. All 12 million humans were still on the planet. They had not evacuated. They had organized. Organized how? Grant had spent 2 months before our arrival preparing the entire population for war. Every human on the planet had a job. Every building had been turned into a fortress. Every street had hidden weapons. Every person, from children to grandparents, was part of a resistance network. Dr. Voss stopped writing. Children? Grant showed me herself. She took me to what looked like a school. Inside, human children between 10 and 16 years old were learning to make bombs, set traps, and use weapons. The teachers were showing them how to identify alien weak points, how to move without being seen, how to gather information. The alien's voice became strained. I asked Grant why she was using children as soldiers. She said they were not soldiers. They were free humans defending their home. She said every human had the right to fight for freedom, no matter how old they were. What did you do? I ordered my soldiers to arrest the children. Grant did not try to stop us. She just smiled and said we could try. When my soldiers entered the school, the children scattered. They knew every hiding place, every secret passage, every way in and out of the building. Zethka paused to drink from a cup of water. We caught maybe 20 children out of 200. The rest disappeared into the city, but they did not run away. They started their own war. How? Small attacks at first. A soldier would disappear while on patrol. A supply truck would break down because someone put sand in the engine. Communications equipment would stop working because wires had been cut. Food would spoil because someone had tampered with the storage systems. The alien commander's scales darkened. Then the attacks got worse. Human children would approach our checkpoints pretending to be lost or scared. When soldiers came to help them, the children would activate bombs hidden in their clothes. Not always to kill, sometimes just to hurt and frighten. Dr. Voss put down her pen. Commander, are you saying human children committed suicide attacks? Some did. But most of the time they had escape plans. They would set off small explosions and then run through passages we did not know existed. The children knew their city better than we knew our own ships. What about the adults? Worse. Much worse. Grant had organized the entire adult population into cells, groups of 5 or 10 people who worked together but did not know about other groups. If we captured one cell, they could not tell us about the others because they did not know. Zethka stood again and began pacing. The humans turned everything into a weapon. Doctors in hospitals would treat our wounded soldiers, but the medicine they used would make the soldiers sick later. Teachers would offer to help us understand human culture, then give us books that contained secret codes for the resistance. Shop owners would sell us food and supplies, but everything they sold us was sabotaged somehow. The food would make us sick. The equipment would break at important moments. The clothing would fall apart during combat. Dr. Voss looked confused. Why did you keep accepting help from humans if you knew they were trying to hurt you? Because we needed them. We did not know the planet. We did not understand their technology. We did not speak their language well. Without human help, we could not function. But with human help, we were always being betrayed. The alien sat back, down heavily. Grant explained it to me during one of our meetings. She said humans had learned from history that the best way to fight an occupying army was to make everything difficult. Make every day a struggle. Make every decision dangerous. Make the enemy afraid to trust anyone. How long did this go on? 8 months. 8 months of constant attacks, constant sabotage, constant fear. My soldiers stopped sleeping well. They jumped at every sound. They were afraid to eat local food, afraid to accept help from humans, afraid to go anywhere alone. Zethka's voice became very quiet. The worst part was that the humans never acted like they were losing. Every time we captured some of them, they were smiling. They made jokes, they sang songs, they acted like they were winning the war. Were they winning? In a way, yes. We had captured the cities, but we controlled nothing. We had arrested thousands of humans, but more took their place. We had superior weapons and training, but we were fighting an entire population that refused to give up. Dr. Voss leaned forward. What changed? How did it end? Grant came to see me one last time. She brought me a gift, a small plant in a pot. She said it was from her garden, something to remember New Dallas by. She told me her people were implementing something called the Scorched Earth Protocol. What was that? Complete destruction of everything useful. The humans had decided that if they could not keep their world, no one could have it. They began destroying their own infrastructure. Power plants, water treatment facilities, communication networks, transportation systems, everything. The aliens' claws scraped against the table. They did not just break things. They made sure they could never be repaired. They used acid to destroy metal. They poisoned water supplies. They burned libraries and databases. In 3 weeks, they turned a beautiful modern world into a wasteland. Did they evacuate first? No. That was the most frightening part. The humans stayed. They lived in the ruins they had created. They drank poisoned water and ate contaminated food and breathed polluted air, but they kept fighting. They said they would rather die as free humans on a dead world than live as slaves on a living one. Dr. Voss stared at her notes. What did you do? I withdrew my forces. There was nothing left to conquer. No infrastructure to use, no resources to steal, no population to control. The humans had made their planet worthless to us. But they were still there, still alive, still fighting. Zethka looked out the window again. As my ships left orbit, Grant sent me one final message. She thanked me for the experience and said it had taught her people valuable lessons about fighting aliens. She said those lessons would be shared with every human world in the galaxy. And the plant she gave you? The alien commander almost smiled. I kept it. It grew during the trip. Back to headquarters. Commander Zethka entered the interview room looking older than before. His scales had lost more of their color and his movements were slow and careful. Dr. Voss noticed he kept looking over his shoulder as if expecting something to attack him from behind. Are you ready to continue? she asked, setting up the recording equipment. I do not think anyone can be ready to talk about what happened in the Sol system, Zethka replied. But I will try. Dr. Voss pressed the record button. Tell me about the space battle. The alien commander was quiet for a long moment. After New Dallas, the Galactic Council decided the human home system had to be taken. Earth was the center of human resistance. If we could capture it, maybe the other human worlds would finally surrender. How big was the invasion fleet? 3,000 ships. Battle cruisers, destroyers, fighters, support vessels. The largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. I commanded one battle group of 200 ships. We thought it would be enough. Zethka stood and walked to his usual spot by the window. The human home system has many planets, but most of the population lives on Earth. Between Earth and the outer planets is a belt of asteroids. Thousands of rocks floating in space, some as big as mountains. Standard defensive position? We thought so. Human Admiral Jake Morrison had positioned his fleet in the asteroid belt. Maybe 400 ships total. Old designs, smaller than ours, fewer weapons. It looked like they were using the asteroids for cover. Classic defensive strategy. Dr. Voss made notes. What happened when you engaged? The battle started normally. Our ships moved in, their ships fired back. We had better shields, better weapons, more ships. For the first hour, everything went as expected. We were winning. The aliens' claws began their familiar tapping on the table. Then Morrison sent a message to all ships, human and alien. Just 3 words. Remember the Alamo. What does that mean? Human battle cry from their history. It means fight to the death, never surrender, make the enemy pay for every victory. When Morrison said those words, everything changed. Zethka returned to his chair, moving like his bones hurt. The asteroid started moving, not drifting like normal rocks in space. Moving with purpose, with direction. The humans had been working in that asteroid belt for months before we arrived. Working how? They had hollowed out hundreds of asteroids and filled them with weapons, nuclear missiles, plasma cannons, railguns, things we had never seen before. What we thought were just floating rocks were actually hidden fortresses. Dr. Voss stopped writing. The entire asteroid belt was weaponized. Not just weaponized. The humans had connected everything with tunnels and communication systems. People could move from one asteroid to another without ever going into open space. They had built a city inside the asteroid belt, and we flew right into the middle of it. The alien commander's voice became strained. When the trap was triggered, we found ourselves surrounded by weapons we could not see coming from directions we had not expected. Asteroids that looked dead and empty suddenly opened up and revealed massive gun batteries. How did your fleet respond? We tried to retreat and regroup, but the humans had planned for that too. They had positioned some asteroids behind us, blocking our escape routes. Other asteroids moved to surround our ships. We were caught in a box made of weaponized rocks. Zethka paused to drink water, his hands shaking slightly. But the worst part was not the weapons. It was what the humans did with their damaged ships. What do you mean? When one of our ships was badly damaged, the crew would try to repair it or abandon it. When a human ship was damaged beyond repair, the crew would aim it at the nearest alien ship and ram it at full speed. Dr. Voss looked up from her notes. Suicide attacks? Every single time. I watched human captains give orders to ram alien ships even when their crews could have escaped in lifeboats. They chose to die if it meant taking some of us with them. The alien stood again and began pacing. Admiral Morrison's flagship was hit by 3 of our heaviest weapons. The ship was breaking apart, atmosphere leaking, engines failing. Instead of surrendering, Morrison ordered his ship to ram our command vessel. Did he succeed? His ship hit our flagship and destroyed it completely. Morrison and his entire crew died, but they took out our supreme commander and his staff. In one attack, they cut the head off our entire invasion force. Zethka's scales darkened as he continued. That became the pattern. Damaged human ships would become missiles. Human fighters with no ammunition would ram our ships. Even escape pods with single crew members would try to damage our vessels during rescue operations. How many ships did you lose to ramming attacks? Over 600 ships were destroyed or damaged by human suicide attacks. But the numbers do not tell the real story. The real story is what it did to my soldiers' minds. Dr. Voss leaned forward. What do you mean? My crew stopped wanting to fight. Every time we damaged a human ship, instead of feeling victory, they felt fear, because they knew that damaged ship was about to become a weapon aimed at us. Fighting humans meant that success was more dangerous than failure. The alien sat down heavily. And then there were the bodies. Bodies? Zethka's voice became very quiet. Space battles create debris, pieces of ships, equipment, and bodies of dead crew members. Usually both sides try to recover their dead for proper burial. It is considered honorable behavior. The humans did not do this. The humans did something much worse. They booby-trapped their own dead. Dr. Voss put down her pen. Commander, I need you to be very clear about what you are saying. Dead human. Soldiers floating in space had small bombs attached to their bodies. When our recovery teams tried to collect the dead for burial, the bombs would explode. The humans weaponized their own fallen comrades. The room was silent, except for the hum of the air recycling system. But it got worse. Zethka continued. Sometimes the bodies were not really dead. Human soldiers would put on special suits that made them look dead and float among the real corpses. When our ships came close, these dead humans would activate larger weapons and attack us from inside our own ships. They faked their own deaths? Regularly. We found human soldiers hiding inside pieces of destroyed ships pretending to be debris. When our salvage crews brought the wreckage aboard, the humans would come out and sabotage our vessels from the inside. Dr. Voss shook her head. How did you deal with this? We stopped trying to recover the dead. We stopped rescuing survivors. We stopped salvaging anything from the battle zone. But that meant we were leaving our own people to die in space because we could not tell which bodies were real and which were traps. Zethka walked back to the window. The battle lasted 6 days. By the end, my soldiers were afraid to approach anything human. Dead bodies, damaged ships, floating debris, distress signals, anything. The humans had made the entire battlefield into a weapon. How did it end? Admiral Morrison was dead, but the humans kept fighting. Every asteroid kept firing. Every surviving ship kept attacking. Every piece of debris was still dangerous. We realized that even if we won the battle, we would lose most of our fleet doing it. The alien turned back to Dr. Voss. On the 6th day, we received a message from Earth. A new human commander, Admiral Pete Collins, offered to negotiate a ceasefire. Did you accept? My superiors ordered me to meet with Collins on a neutral station. When I arrived, I expected to discuss terms of human surrender. Instead, Collins presented me with detailed intelligence about every ship in our invasion fleet. Dr. Voss frowned. How could he have that information? The humans had been monitoring all our communications during the battle. They knew our ship, names, our crew numbers, our weapon capabilities, our supply levels, everything. Collins told me that human agents had infiltrated our support bases throughout the galaxy. Agents? Humans who looked like other species through surgery and genetic modification. They had been gathering intelligence for years, preparing for this war. Collins showed me photographs of human spies working inside alien governments, military bases, and supply depots. Zethka returned to his chair one final time. Collins made it clear that the humans could continue the war indefinitely. They could strike at any alien world, any military base, any supply convoy. They had been preparing for galactic war while we thought they were just a primitive species on one planet. What did you tell your superiors? I told them the truth. The humans were not just defending their home system. They were fighting a galactic war and they were winning. Every battle we won cost us more than we could afford, and every battle we lost made them stronger. Dr. Voss checked her recorder. Is that when the peace negotiations began? That is when we realized we were not fighting a war anymore. We were fighting extinction. The humans had made it clear that they would rather destroy the entire galaxy than accept defeat, and they had the means to do it. The alien commander looked out at the stars one more time. Collins sent me a final message before I left the peace talks. He said the battle in the asteroid belt was just a test, a way to see how well humans could fight in space. He said the real war would begin if we ever attacked Earth itself. Did you believe him? After what I saw in that asteroid belt, I believed every word. Dr. Voss found Commander Zethka sitting in the corner of the interview room as far from the door as possible. His back was against the wall, and his eyes constantly moved around the room. She had seen this behavior before in soldiers who had experienced too much combat. "Commander, are you feeling well enough to continue?" she asked gently. Zethka nodded slowly. "I need to finish this story. People need to understand what humans are capable of when they decide to fight." Dr. Voss activated the recorder and settled into her chair. "Tell me about the later stages of the war." "After the asteroid belt battle, everything changed. My superiors realized the humans were not just defending themselves. They were studying us, learning from every encounter, adapting to everything. We threw at them." The alien's claws scraped nervously against the table. Within 3 months of first contact, human scientists had developed biological weapons specifically designed to kill my species. Not general poisons, targeted diseases that attacked saurian DNA. How is that possible? They captured some of my soldiers during early battles. Instead of just holding them as prisoners, the humans studied them. They took blood samples, skin samples, genetic material. They learned how our bodies worked better than we knew ourselves. Dr. Voss made notes. What kind of weapons did they create? Airborne viruses that made our scales fall off, bacteria that attacked our digestive systems, chemical compounds that interfered with our ability to regulate body temperature. They created dozens of different biological weapons in just a few months. Zethka stood and began his familiar pacing. But the terrifying part was not that they made these weapons. It was how they used them. How do you mean? The humans would release the biological weapons in small amounts at first, just enough to make a few soldiers sick. Then they would watch how we responded, what medicines we used, what procedures. We followed how we tried to protect ourselves. The alien's voice became strained. Once they understood our countermeasures, they would modify their weapons to get around our defenses. Every time we thought we had solved the problem, the humans would change their approach. That sounds like standard military adaptation. No. This was different. Most species develop weapons and then use them. Humans develop weapons, test them, study the results, improve them, test them again, and keep changing them. They treat warfare like a science experiment. Dr. Voss looked up from her notes. "Can you give me a specific example?" Lieutenant Colonel Amy Brooks, Human Special Forces Commander. She led deep infiltration missions behind our lines. Her teams would study our bases for weeks before attacking. Zethka's scales darkened as he continued. Brooks and her soldiers would capture our personnel and interview them. Not torture. Interview. They would ask questions about our training, our procedures, our fears, our hopes, our families back home. Why? Because Brooks understood that knowing your enemy means more than knowing their weapons. It means knowing how they think, how they make decisions, what motivates them to fight or surrender. The alien sat down heavily. Brooks used that knowledge to destroy us from the inside. She would approach our bases disguised as refugees or traitors. She spoke our language perfectly, knew our customs, understood our military ranks and procedures. How did she learn so much? From the soldiers she interviewed. Every conversation taught her something new about how we operated. She learned our radio frequencies, our patrol schedules, our security codes, even our personal habits. Dr. Voss frowned. Did your soldiers know they were giving away information? That was the clever part. Brooks never asked direct military questions. She would ask about home, about family, about food preferences, about religious beliefs. Small talk that seemed harmless but revealed important details about our culture and psychology. Zethka's hands shook slightly as he reached for his water cup. Brooks used this information to predict how we would respond to different situations. She could anticipate our strategies because she understood how we thought. What happened during her missions? Brooks would infiltrate a base with a small team, maybe 5 or 6 soldiers. They would spend days inside our facilities, pretending to be maintenance workers or civilian contractors. During this time, they would plant listening devices, steal documents, and identify key personnel. The alien's voice became quieter. When they were ready to attack, they would eliminate our command structure first. Not just killing officers, but targeting the specific people who made important decisions. Brooks knew which commanders were brave, which were cowards, which were smart, which were foolish. Did you ever catch her? 3 times. But Brooks had prepared for capture too. She would allow herself to be taken prisoner, then use the time in custody to gather more intelligence about our prison systems and interrogation procedures. Dr. Voss stopped writing. She planned to be captured. Brooks told me herself during one interrogation. She said every experience was a learning opportunity. Even being a prisoner taught her useful information about how we treated captives, what questions we asked, what techniques we used to break enemy morale. How did she escape? Different ways each time. Once she picked the locks on her cell using improvised tools. Another time she convinced her guards that she was actually a defector who wanted to help us fight other humans. The third time she started a riot among other prisoners to create a distraction. Zethka stood and walked to the window again. But the escapes were not the important part. The important part was what Brooks learned during each capture. She studied our prison procedures, our guard rotations, our security weaknesses. What did she do with that information? Brooks used it to help other captured humans escape. She developed detailed guides for breaking out of our prisons, avoiding our security systems, and evading our search procedures. These guides were shared with human resistance networks across the galaxy. The alien turned back to Dr. Voss. Within 6 months, human prisoners were escaping from our most secure facilities. They knew exactly how to defeat our locks, avoid our sensors, and confuse our guards. That seems impossible. I thought so too, until I realized what Brooks had done. She had turned being a prisoner into an intelligence-gathering mission. Every human we captured became a potential spy who could learn our secrets and share them with other humans. Dr. Voss shook her head. What happened to Brooks? She disappeared during a mission to rescue captured humans from a prison planet. We never found her body, but we kept receiving intelligence reports that someone with her skills was operating in different sectors of the galaxy. Zethka returned to his chair. I became convinced that Brooks had trained other humans to use her methods. Everywhere we went, we encountered humans who seemed to know too much about our operations, our weaknesses, our plans. You think she created a network of spies? I know she did. During our final meeting, Brooks showed me photographs of human agents working inside alien military commands, government offices, and research facilities throughout the galaxy. The alien's voice became very quiet. Some of these agents had been in place for years before the war started. They had undergone surgery to look like other species. They had learned alien languages and customs so well that even their co-workers did not suspect they were human. How many agents? Brooks claimed there were human spies on every major alien world in the galaxy. She said humans had been preparing for galactic war for decades, long before anyone knew they existed. Dr. Voss put down her pen. Commander, are you saying humans planned this war? No. They prepared for the possibility of war. There is a difference. Humans study history, and their history taught them that stronger civilizations often conquer weaker ones. So they prepared. Zethka's claws tapped against the table. While we thought humans were a primitive species concerned only with their own planet, they were actually studying the entire galaxy, learning about every species, every government, every military force. How? Trade missions, cultural exchanges, scientific expeditions, diplomatic visits. Every time humans contacted an alien species, they gathered intelligence. They were mapping our strengths and weaknesses long before anyone fired a shot. The alien stood one more time. Brooks explained it to me during our last conversation. She said humans had learned from their own history that the best defense is preparation. Know your potential enemies better than they know themselves. What was the most disturbing thing she told you? That the war was actually a test. Humans wanted to see how galactic civilization would respond to resistance. They needed to know if alien species would respect human independence, or try to conquer them eventually. Dr. Voss stared at her notes. The entire war was an experiment? Brooks said humans assumed that eventually some alien species would try to conquer Earth. The war with us was their chance to test their defenses, their strategies, their ability to fight a galactic conflict. And they were ready? More than ready. Brooks showed me detailed plans for asymmetric warfare against every major species in the galaxy. Humans had identified the specific weaknesses of dozens of different alien civilizations and developed tactics to exploit those weaknesses. Zeth Ka looked out the window at the passing ships. She told me that humans did not want to conquer anyone. Dr. Voss entered the interview room for the final time to find Commander Zeth Ka already waiting. He looked different today, calmer but somehow more tired. His yellow eyes seemed older, carrying the weight of everything he had shared over the past week. "This is our last session," she said, sitting down and turning on the recorder. "Tell me how the war ended." Zeth Ka nodded slowly. "The end came faster than anyone expected. My superiors were planning another major offensive when we received a message from the human government. They wanted to negotiate peace. After everything that happened, you agreed to negotiate? We had no choice. The war was destroying us. Every battle cost more ships and soldiers than we could replace. Every planet we attacked became a wasteland that was useless to us. Every human we captured became a source of intelligence for their resistance networks." The alien commander leaned back in his chair. "But the real reason we agreed to negotiate was fear. Fear of what humans would do if we pushed them too far." Dr. Voss made notes. "What did you fear specifically?" "Complete galactic war. The humans had made it clear they would not surrender no matter what we did to them. If we continued the war, they would eventually bring their fight to every alien world in the galaxy." Zeth Ka stood and walked to the window. "The peace negotiations were held on this station, actually. Harmony Prime was considered neutral territory. I was part of the military delegation. Who represented the humans? Colonel Steve Hayes. Former military commander, but he came as a civilian diplomat. Small man, maybe 50 years old. Gray hair, quiet voice. He did not look dangerous at all. The aliens' claws began their familiar tapping. Hayes arrived with a small team of advisors and a single briefcase. No weapons, no guards, no military escort. He seemed almost friendly. How did the negotiations begin? The Galactic Council expected Hayes to plead for mercy, ask for humanitarian aid for his people, beg us to stop attacking human worlds. Instead, Hayes opened his briefcase and began showing us photographs. Dr. Voss looked up from her notes. Photographs of what? Every major alien world in the galaxy. Capital cities, military bases, government buildings, industrial centers. But these were not normal photographs. They were taken from inside these facilities. Zeth Ka's voice became strained. Hayes showed us pictures of the inside of the Saurian High Command building, photos of secret meetings, classified documents, private conversations between our generals. He had similar intelligence for every species in the coalition. How was that possible? Human spies. Hayes calmly explained that during the 3 years of war, humans had infiltrated every major alien government and military organization in the galaxy. They had agents working as clerks, technicians, guards, even advisors to high-ranking officials. The alien sat back down heavily. Hayes showed us organizational charts of our own military commands. He knew the names, ranks, and personal details of officers I had never heard of. He had access to our most classified information. What was his message? Hayes said the humans could continue the war indefinitely, not just defending their own worlds, but attacking alien infrastructure throughout the galaxy. He showed us detailed plans for sabotaging alien transportation networks, communication systems, and supply chains. Dr. Voss stopped writing. He was threatening the entire galactic civilization. Not threatening, informing. Hayes explained that humans had identified critical vulnerabilities in alien society, power grids that could be shut down, trade routes that could be disrupted, food supplies that could be contaminated. Zeth Ka's scales darkened. He told us that humans could wage asymmetric warfare against the entire galaxy. Small teams of human agents could cripple alien worlds without ever landing an invasion force. Did you believe him? Hayes proved it while we watched. During our second day of negotiations, he showed us live footage of human agents shutting down power grids on 3 different alien worlds simultaneously. The blackouts lasted only a few minutes, but the message was clear. The alien commander stood and began pacing. Hayes said humans did not want to destroy galactic civilization. They just wanted to make sure everyone understood that attacking Earth would have consequences throughout the galaxy. What kind of consequences? Hayes showed us computer models of what would happen if humans decided to fight a total war. Transportation systems failing, communication networks going dark, supply chains breaking down, governments losing control of their own planets. Dr. Voss frowned. One species could do all that? Hayes explained that humans had spent years studying galactic civilization and had discovered something important. Advanced civilizations are more fragile than primitive ones. The more complex a society becomes, the easier it is to disrupt. Zethka returned to his chair. Alien worlds depend on technology, trade, and centralized systems. Humans showed us how a few well-placed attacks could cause cascade failures that would shut down entire planetary civilizations. Did Hayes make specific demands? That was the most disturbing part. Hayes did not ask for anything. He just wanted to make sure we understood what humans were capable of. He said the war could end immediately if aliens agreed to leave human space alone. The alien's voice became quiet. But Hayes also said something that terrified everyone in that room. He said humans had enjoyed the challenge of fighting a galactic war, and they were disappointed it was ending so soon. Enjoyed it? Hayes explained that war had taught humans valuable lessons about fighting in space, dealing with alien technology, and organizing resistance networks. He said humans were grateful for the educational experience. Dr. Voss put down her pen. He thanked you for the war? Hayes said the war had made humans stronger and smarter. It had forced them to develop new technologies, new strategies, and new alliances. He said fighting aliens had been the best training humans could have asked for. Zethka's claws scraped against the table. Then Hayes showed us his final presentation, detailed analysis of every alien species in the galaxy, their military capabilities, their technological weaknesses, their psychological profiles, their economic vulnerabilities. Analysis for what purpose? Hayes said humans now knew exactly how to fight every species in the galaxy. If there was ever another war, humans would not need months or years to adapt. They would know immediately how to defeat any enemy. The alien stood and walked to the window one last time. Hayes told us that humans had created detailed war plans for fighting every major alien civilization. Not because they wanted war, but because they believed in being prepared. What happened next? The Galactic Council agreed to Hayes's terms immediately. Not just peace, but recognition of human independence and an invitation to join the Council as equal members. Dr. Voss looked confused. Why would the Council make humans equal partners after fighting a war against them? Because Hayes made it clear that humans would either be respected as equals or treated as permanent enemies. There was no middle ground. Either aliens accepted humans as civilized partners, or humans would treat them as potential threats to be neutralized. Zethka turned back from the window. Hayes said humans had learned from their own history that peace through strength was the only lasting peace. Humans would never again allow themselves to be in a position where they could be conquered or controlled. How did the negotiations end? Hayes packed up his briefcase and prepared to leave. Before he went, he gave each delegation leader a small gift, a book about human history written in our own languages. What was the message? The book contained stories of human wars throughout their history. Every story had the same theme: humans, fighting against impossible odds and refusing to surrender. Hayes said understanding human history was the key to understanding why humans could never be conquered. The alien sat down for the final time. Hayes told us that humans did not want to rule the galaxy or conquer other species. They just wanted to make sure that no one could ever conquer them. Did you read the book he gave you? Every word. Human history is full of examples of small groups defeating larger enemies through determination, innovation, and refusal to give up. Hayes was showing us that this war was not unusual for humans, it was how they always fought. Dr. Voss checked her recorder. Why are you telling me all this, Commander? Because people need to understand what humans are. They look like many Other species, they seem friendly and civilized, but they are the most dangerous species in the galaxy because they will never accept defeat. Zethka's voice became very serious. Humans are not stronger or smarter than other species, but they have something that makes them almost impossible to fight. They believe that freedom is more important than life itself. Is that why the Council agreed to make them equal members? The Council realized that humans would either be our partners or our enemies. There was no way to make them our subjects, so we chose partnership. Dr. Voss turned off the recorder. What do you think will happen now? Humans will keep growing, stronger. They will keep learning about other species. They will keep preparing for wars that may never come. And they will keep reminding everyone that attacking them is a mistake no one wants to make twice. Zethka stood to leave. Doctor, humans changed everything. Before this war, the galaxy was controlled by whoever had the biggest fleet and the most advanced weapons.